Check 1, 2. All right. I'm still getting set up here. Just checking out how this little laptop is handling. And it seems that my volume is low. Let's see if I can remedy that a little bit. All right, that all seems fine. Please bear with me. Just getting set up. Check 2, check, check. Check 2. Check 1, 2, check, check. Please note that I'm about to increase the volume, so listeners out there who have back down. And I'm turning up the gain. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Just about reaching the red. Pop. Pop. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Okay, and turn back on. I'm in the yellow. Things are good. Okay. Just gonna give a quick little listen to that. I really should do pre-stream checks rather than just doing it at the beginning. But, it isn't professional or anything. And yes, I know that my ACAM is obvious. Can only work on so many things at once. And right now, it's getting audio sets. Two. Is the audio clean? Working good? Alright, well, it looks like I'm getting a little bit of popping, stuttering action on here. Check 1, 2. Check, check, check. Okay, I just didn't wait long enough. Audio, prompter camera. Audio is on and selected, and was working before without changing anything. I'm going to try removing all of the filters. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So Is there sync? Hoping there's sync. Okay, so I just get no audio there. Okay, so I'm hoping this is quite a bit better. Just killed Firefox, and I'm going to try to call up the stream and monitor it on my phone. There may be an echo in just a moment, as I currently have just speakers on my phone, but I'll see that in a couple of seconds. YouTube, Cpgeek.org. There's my live stream. Okay, so I'm hoping this is quite a bit better. Just killed Firefox. And now that that's running, I'm just going to try a sync test. Okay, let's see how that works. Live stream. So I'm hoping this is quite a bit better. Now that that's running, I'm just going to try a sync test. Okay, so I'm going to end up with myself on top of myself, and let's see how this works. Okay, so theoretically, I should be back, and this should be working. Okay, theoretically, I should be back, and this should be working. 1, 2, 3. One, two. Audio is way out of sync. I'm not certain what's going on here. All right, so hopefully I'm live, and hopefully things are syncing. So I'm going to test that right now and see where that leaves me. All right, so hopefully I'm live, and hopefully things are syncing. So I'm going to test that right now and see where that leaves me. All right. Still not synchronized. I don't know what's up with that. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Okay. Check 1 2, check 1 2. So where'd my video go? Oh, I see what happens. So, video go. I wasn't in studio mode while I was testing the audio. All right, so how are things working now? So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so I'm in focus. Okay, this lack of synchronization is garbage. All right, so I think we're back and things should be in sync despite the audio not being all that great. I'm using laptop microphone for this one, so we're just going to have to deal with it. Audio not being all that great. Using laptop microphone for this one, so we're just going to have to deal with it. And of course, focus. All right, so we're in focus now, or at least we should be getting that way. Okay. All right, so we're in now. Okay. That is not at all in focus. Let's try again. That's a little bit better. Okay, so is this working? I'm just taking a look at my phone here and seeing what's what. Yes, it's actually working now. Okay, sorry about all that. 20 minutes in, after all of this foolishness. Let's see, I just got a ding. Okay, I will be checking chat on my phone periodically. If anyone has any questions, please do feel free to give a shout in the chat on the side there. So here we are. I'm Josh, also known as Cpgeek, and today I'm going to go ahead and get started on liquid cooling my new computer. My previous video went over all the liquid cooling components, so I'm not going to spend too much time going over them bit by bit, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. First thing I'm going to start off with is liquid cooling my graphics card. It's a MSI 3090, and it's a Gaming X Trio, and I have a Bykski water block that's going to go on top of this, and we'll get to that in a couple of seconds. before that, I'm just going to go ahead and get this stream out there. Share, copy, and just going to go ahead and toss that on Twitter. Tweet, paste, starting my liquid cooling build stream. Copy all. Tweet. And also for Facebook. Paste. Post. And for the Cpgeek.org group, so nobody misses out. Create post, paste, publish. All right, sorry to take you through all that. Camera. So many technical issues. All right, so let's switch over to my desk view, which is a complete mess. It just screws. All right, so MSI 3090 Gaming Extrudo. Everything is completely stock. I just pulled this out of my computer. It is currently a little dusty just because it's been working, but I've shaken it down over the past 3-4 weeks now. I've had this going on air, but it is extraordinarily loud when doing any sort of high-end gaming, 4K gaming, especially Cyberpunk, when it's being maxed out, and it's just way too loud. And I'm also hoping that I can get some better overclocking out of it with some cooler temperatures. So that's the goal here right now today. So this should be a fairly straightforward installation. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this whole shroud fan assembly. Let's get that in frame. And we're going to go ahead and replace that with the Bykski block from in this box here. I do have some thermal paste, as well as I'm going to pull up a step-by-step guide here on my computer. Hopefully that won't take too long. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and tear down the old card. Let's go ahead and find, there's the thermal path I need. Just looking for my screwdriver, which was directly in front of me. It's the best place to hide something from me. Where did you go? Well, in this case, where did my precision screwdriver go? Did it fall? It is certainly one of those fun days where many things are not quite going right. Nothing serious though. All right, there's the thermal paste that I was looking for. So there's one thing. Oh, it was right out here about an hour ago. All things are going to need a few minutes. Go ahead and move that over there. Interesting. Let's see if I have another at my disposal. Oh, that's flathead. Currently forks open. I might have another bit. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and use the electric, which should be just fine for this set of things. Oh, I don't know if I have the adapter for the electric handy. Ah, there we are. That's not going to work either. This is the worst stream ever. More thermal compound. Interesting. Set that aside for a minute. Yes, the audio sounds really warbly because I'm using laptop audio and I keep turning away from it, and it's really not designed for this particular application. I used my normal microphone, but I had extreme delay. I've tried to shake that down at the beginning of this stream, but it didn't go my way. This laptop that I'm using is very much not my normal streaming setup. The computer that I usually use for my streaming setup is in fact my workstation, which is being torn down at the moment in order to, be liquid cooled. So I apologize for that, but we're working through it, and here we go. And somebody keeps insisting to message me on Facebook. Yeah. Anyhow, I'm currently just searching around for a screwdriver, which I should normally have at the ready, and I did have at the ready, but managed to vanish as soon as I needed it. But I think that this combination should work. All right. So the first thing that has to happen is getting rid of the shroud. So we'll go ahead and do that. flip it on over. Actually, I prefer this way. And we're just going to go ahead and pull all the screws out of this. And I'm going to set them in here. I have a larger screw kit, but across the room right now, and this will provide adequate separation. I'm just starting down here, and I already watched a teardown guide for this particular card, so I know that all of these screws are the same length. If you do this on your own card, that is a different make. That may not be the case, so please do keep track of your screws. But I have already studied this, and thankfully MSI, in their infinite wisdom, chose to make this card have all one backplate screws, except for these four here, which are the retaining mechanism for the actual graphics processor itself. And those are actually captive. They are non-removable from the little hold down mechanism there. I'm just going around removing all the screws. Of note, this backplate makes it, or this water block makes it so that not all of these backplate screws will go back in. So there will be some leftover screws when I'm done. Just going around here. And as soon as I have all of these backplate screws out, I will go ahead and lift up on the back plate, and it should come loose a little bit. And from there, I will go ahead and, all right, let's go ahead and remove the little plugs here for the fans. All right, so that's one fan plug, and that's two fan plugs removed. So that's there. I believe that's all that should be holding this thing together right now. I'm going to set this flat and then go ahead and pry up on the back plate. I know that there are some thermal pads that have adhesive holding this down. I'm just going to gently wiggle. They pop free. There's the back plate. Of note, on this particular back plate, there are thermal pads here, 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 which goes on the memory, which I'll show you in a couple of seconds. There's memory here, and memory here. We're actually going to be reusing this back plate in a few minutes once this gets reassembled in order to cool the memory on the back side of the card, which is all of this right here. All of these black squares are memory all the way around the middle part, which is the actual GPU. Gotta reframe just a little bit. And back off just a little bit. Not too much. There we go. All right. So all of these chips are the VRAM, and these need to be actively cooled because the GDDR6 VRAM on this is actually, pretty hot when it's in use. So now that we've got the back plate off, that's most of what holds this thing together. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the GPU retention plate here. And that should separate this from the actual cooler. I'm going to go ahead and remove this little warranty void sticker, and I'm just going to pop that on the water block box. I'll probably go ahead and put that back. This too is just Phillips screws. Again, these are self-retaining screws. So in order to not cause the GTU to crack, I'm just going to go around in a star pattern and remove a little bit at a time these screws. So just cracking them free the first run, maybe give them a couple of quarter turns, and then I'm just going to go ahead and, like I said, in a star pattern and make sure that this is evenly removed, as I want to make sure to remove this very evenly so as to not crack the die or cause any mounting issues later on. There's one popped up. These are kind of spring-loaded by nature. There's another. And 3 and 4. I do believe we will be reusing this later, and I'm just trying not to interfere with any of those there. All right, so that's our retention plate, spring steel. I'll set that aside in the water block box. Check my chat. Eric says the back plate's connected to the something's connected to the red thing's connected to my wristwatch. Uh-oh. Well, in this case, the backplate is connected to the VRAM, and the VRAM is connected to the PCB, and the PCB is connected to the cooler, which we're totally undoing right now. So right now, now that I've gotten rid of the retention clip for the cooler, this whole board should be free. On the other side, a minute ago, we went ahead and removed the cables for the fans, which is the only thing that ties it to the cooler on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and lift up and gently wiggle. Hope I didn't miss anything. Did I miss any screws or something? Don't believe so. I don't see any additional screws. The thermal paste might hold it on kind of tight. I'm just gently lifting. Feels like I missed a screw somewhere, but I don't think I did. Unless it's possible that the slot cover is holding down a mid-plane, but I don't think that's the case. Oh, that is exactly the case. So on the end here, we have this the slot cover, and I believe that's being held to this, which holds it to the board. So the best approach for removing this part, probably just to completely remove the slot cover, which is kind of something I wanted to avoid. Just looking for how that's mounted. There only appears to be one screw for the mid-plane, although I did miss one of the cables. Sorry it's out of view, I'm just sitting it on my lap for appropriate leverage so I don't break any of the cables. There we go. So, get it back on camera. There's this cable that I failed to detach And there's also one right here that I failed to attach. There we go. Just being very gentle with those connectors. You never know what's going to hold things down. Well, I didn't think that you had to remove the slot cover. I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway. It's just a few more Phillips screws. Phillips screws that are actually really in there. Huh, interesting. Those I'll put in a different section here. I'll have the torque to remove it from that. Ah, okay, so the mid-plane is now completely loose. That's good. Does that mean the cooler will come off, though? No, just the mid-plane. Flip it back over. I have to make absolutely certain that I didn't miss any screws. As far as I know, that should really be it. Mid-plane's free. There we go. Just prying. Okay, so it was the thermal paste and all of those cooling pads that prevented me from taking off the cooler. All right, so this is a big honking cooler. And that mid-plane retention stiffener thingy here needs to come off anyway. I did see that in the tutorial. Its thermal pad isn't needed or anything like that. So now we just need to grab our new block and start cutting thermal pads. Okay. So the retention clip there. Grab the new block. Normally I would just go ahead and move the cooler out of the way, but I actually want to see exactly where those thermal pads are so I can go ahead and cut new ones. These thermal pads came with the cooler, the water block that is, and I'll go ahead and cut those to size in just a few moments. First, though, I'm going to go ahead and clear this GPU of the thermal compound that's on there. I've got some paper towels at the ready, and should have some isopropyl alcohol. There we go. I have a corner left. Gonna need some more of that, but that should be enough for our purposes here now today. This stuff is solid as a rock. I wouldn't be surprised if just reapplying thermal compound would be all that this would need to improve its thermal performance pretty dramatically. Go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Hold that down so it doesn't slide. Just using a little isopropyl alcohol to clean off the old thermal compound. This part is rather tedious. But if you don't do a good job at cleaning off the old thermal compound, then the new stuff won't stick, and there will be thermal gas in the whole point of liquid cooling this to improve performance goes out the window. I'm just doing a nice job at cleaning off the surface of the die. The stuff on the sides I don't care too much about. I'll try to very gently clear that off. I don't want to ruin any of the surface mount devices here. There are some SMDs that are around the sides here. The last thing I want to do is pop that off, so I'm just being very careful. This stuff is stuck on. And of course, get myself covered in thermal compound while I'm at it. Sorry about all the quiet. This is the boring bit. Just trying to remove all the thermal compound. It's time for another paper towel before I get this stuff all over the place. They typically over-apply thermal compound just a little bit to GPUs, which isn't a problem. A little too much is better than not enough. So I'm going to try to do exactly the same. The stuff that I'm using today is Arctic Silver, and they've been making thermal compound for quite some time. High performance stuff. So that's trying to get this as clean as possible without breaking anything. The surface of the GPU is most important. That's as close as I can get you guys here right now. But as you can see, it's nice and shiny. Still some remaining thermal compound around the edges, but I don't think I'm going to be able to really do much about that, at least not without a some kind of a cleaning station. But that shouldn't affect thermal performance any. Just trying to polish the last of that off of there. fine. And while I'm here, I'm also going to do a minor cleaning on the memory chips because the pads that were on here cover them in goop. There's some leftover adhesive goop on there. So I'm just very gently wiping the surfaces of these chips. I don't have to be too clean or detail oriented with this. I'm trying to get the bulk of the adhesive off of there with the rubbing alcohol where I can without bumping any sort of surface mount components that are adjacent to memory. Just taking a little extra care here because I really don't want to do this more than once unless I need to put the original cooler back on for whatever reason. The only two reasons why I would do that are A, if I go ahead to resell this card and the potential buyer doesn't want it liquid cooled, which is fine. This modification is completely reversible. And B, if I mess up any part of my water cooling loop in a way that requires me to wait for a very long time for components, then I can reverse this mod fairly easily and then put my card back together for air cooling and wait for those parts to ship while I still use my workstation. Hoping that doesn't happen, but it's always a possibility. I'm almost done with this cooling, cleaning part, which, as I said, is the very boring part of this particular modification / rework. Trying to get all of the surfaces clear of whatever adhesive is on those old thermal pads. Quite shiny and leaves behind some kind of oily residue that this rubbing alcohol is quite good at removing. I'm just wiping down all the components. Rubbing alcohol is totally safe on all of these electronic components as long as it's high enough percentage. This is a 70% alcohol solution, so shouldn't be any problems whatsoever as long as they don't knock any surface mount devices off. That's the end goal here. I also just noticed that there is a thermal pad that's remaining here. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. First off, I want to figure out where exactly that goes before I remove it. Three modules, bottom. Oh, okay, I see it. So it's going to go. There we go. Going to go back up here. That's where that lives. I'm saving all of the thermal pads from the old cooling solution just because I can go ahead and reuse them if absolutely necessary. And also, I don't want to forget where anything goes. In this new water cooling scenario, I'm going to want to put all of the thermal pads or new thermal pads where all of the old ones went. So that's what's next. And that chip that I just that pad off of. I think that's everything. I think I've got everything pretty clean. Everything is looking good. All right. So next, I'm going to go ahead and just give the new block a quick rub down with rubbing alcohol, assuming I have enough left here to finish off this bottle here tonight. All right, so here's the new block, and you'll note that there are basically cutouts and whatnot for places where all of the thermal pads are going to go. For the most part, I don't think there's a one-to-one thermal pad arrangement with the old cooler, which doesn't bug me all that much because a lot of the heat that's going to be removed from those components is just going to naturally be transferred the rest of the block and out of the system via the liquid that passes through it. This block is really heavy and there's a lot of thermal mass here. All right. Cool. So this is going to end up like this in the end. Let's check back to the chat, see where things are. Hello, people in chat. Not a whole lot going on right now, I know, but I appreciate anybody who's still watched along and watching me go through all of this. If anything, this should cut the noise that this card puts out pretty dramatically. All right, so I'm going to do the thermal compound last as far as the way that things are going to go together. Don't need these headphones right now. Okay, so next is going to be the thermal pads, which means that I'm going to need a cutting method, which let's just go ahead and get these thermal pads out first. I like to stick to the inside of the bag here. I'm going to have to turn this inside out. Looks like this stuff, back up just a bit. Okay, so it looks like this stuff is cooled here. I think that's the right way around. Yes, yes it is. Okay, so chokes and caps first. I'm just going to go ahead and lay this right on top here. This plastic. Not plastic. It's fighting me here. No, I don't want to go. All right. All right, that's the first thermal pad installed. Right, I was about to get a cutting implement. Excuse me for just a moment. I will return with a set of scissors that I lent some family members earlier today. Here we are. Scissors. Oh, and of course I ended up messing up the other camera. Let's get that back online. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this down. Looks like this is half. Double check on that. Yep, that's exactly half. I'm just going to eyeball half. That across the rim here. Come on. Trying to get it lined up. All right. Good job. Okay. Now the other side. And apparently my cat wants to join the party. Just managed to bump my door open. It was crawling around under my desk. Well, hopefully that will not impede things here. Of course, every time I bump that camera, it goes out. Still got to figure that out, but things are going right along. Okay. So the next ones. I'm going to put across here. Actually, I'm going to do that over here. And that will cool that chip. Sorry, you can't see that. So I was just working over here, and I noted that this thermal pad has to go in the groove. Sorry, what are you doing up there, meow meow? Apparently, she's supervising my work. Trying to get the plastic piece off of this. There we go. That's in there. Good. Okay. Now it looks like a couple of these are cut in half lengthwise. Getting pretty low on these too, so I'm gonna do what they did. Stuff that's in here, don't think it's covered. We'll see how much of this we have left. Very important that I take off the plastic backing on all of these before it goes together. If I forget just one, a component could overheat, and that is not something that I want in this setup. Okay. I'm just checking them as this stuff is really tacky, so I can tell immediately when you touch it what the deal is with it. Okay, so I've got that RAM chip covered on. Well, you know what? I'll just take it off and put it over here. That's all the RAM chips covered. On this side, I'm going to be reusing the back plates pads. I'm just going to put the back plate exactly where it was before on the back side of the card, because I don't have replacement pads for the back plate. There is an official back plate for this particular liquid cooler, but I opted to retain the back plate from the original cooler because I thought that it would still do a good job. And this particular card has a back plate that actually has some heat pipes, so it should work very well. Let's see, what's next? The components that I have not yet gotten to. These caps and these caps, I don't think are actually going to get cooled. We'll see in a second. These power regulators here are definitely important, though. I'm going to go ahead and cut a strip for those. Okay, I think that I may end up having to reuse a couple of the thermal pads from the previous cooler design. Sorry, I got distracted by the cat for a second. she's trying to get behind the tempered glass panel that I've propped up. Just a second. I don't want this to end in disaster. Yes, getting under glass. No. Alright, so this is going to go to a different place. Set that here for now. Actually, I'm just going to reattach this to my case real quick. Sorry to be off camera for so long. I just don't want her to be not able to knock over the glass panel. That would really suck. Okay. No, you can't have M&Ms. That would be bad. All right, so I'm gonna call up the guide here real quick. Hello. Okay. Just bringing up the guide for this card. Bykski 3090 Gaming X Trio. All right, so there's my guide. I'm sorry I can't share this right now. This laptop is pretty terrible at everything as far as streaming right now. Hoping this isn't causing too much problem interfering with the stream. Installation. Just zooming in a little here. All right, install thermal pad. All right, thermal pad on MLS VRAM. AAA. This guide doesn't look like my card. But I don't think it should be a problem. Except for the placement of thermal pads. All right, so I'm going to go ahead over to Bykski. I'm going to look up the YouTube video. Sorry about the typing noise. I know that I'm using the laptop's microphone, so clicking and tapping is probably not great. Let's go ahead and maximize that. B-roll montage, tutorial overview, Required tools, removing the backplate, removing the GPU retention mechanism, removing all the cables from the PCB, removing the PCB from the air cooler, cleaning the PCB with isopropyl alcohol, cutting and placing the new thermal pad. That's where I'm at. I'm just watching somebody else's guide. Please note that this is not a guide. Please don't follow me. I am a noob as far as the installation of this stuff. If you know better, please go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and link the video that I'm watching right now, the how to install water block on an RTX 3080 or 3090 Gaming X Trio. This is actually the same block that I'm using here, so I've watched this video a couple of times, but I just want to make absolutely certain that I'm doing this correctly. I'll go ahead and link it down below when the stream is concluded. I just want to make sure to get this absolutely right. All right, so he's doing the memory. He's doing these strokes here. Switch back. So he did the memory, and then these strokes here, or these VRMs here, I guess, is what they are. Kitty, what are you? Kitty's up on a shelf and is exploring. Fun times. Anyhow, let's get back to that. So about half vertically. So there you go. I don't want to cut too much. Is it both of those? All right, so he's got pads here through this whole section. Oh no, just the left and right sides. Okay. There's this, which I'm hoping is wide enough. Actually, you know what? Let's do the skinny ones first with this. Yeah, that's a better fit. And we'll do the water ones with this. And my cat's ready to leave now. Just a moment. You know. Bye, kitty. Okay. Yes, kitty assistant. I probably just interrupted the camera. No, I didn't. Okay, cool. So what do you guys see right now? Okay. Okay. All right, so I can zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about here. I just went ahead and installed the thermal pad across the VRMs here and here. I didn't quite get it quite in half, but these are skinnier than these, so it actually worked out. So everything is good there. I think this might get cooled too. That's a little wider than I needed it, but should do. All right, I'm just looking at this guide to make sure there's nothing else that I need to cool. Oh, I see. So looking at the block itself, I've already laid this in, this blue pad, which should correspond to these, right? And then this raised area corresponds to probably this stuff on the end, which may need to be liquid cooled. Just reviewing some more of this video here. Well, he's at the mounting part, so I'm going to scroll back to the cutting and placing the new thermal pads part. All right, so he cleaned up his board, same as I did. Over the RAM. cover these parts, but not these. Oh, just didn't get to that part. He does cover that. Okay. And then just the thermal compounds. He did not cover any of this stuff, which is intriguing. I guess because it's in this open portion here and not going to be cooled, period. But there is this outside portion here. So, yeah. I think they may have given me an extra strip of thermal pads that I incorrectly applied to this section. Should still be okay. So I'm just trying to find out where things are going to line up, just like this. So it's these components, these under here, that need to be cooled, as we see here. Okay. Well, let me move this down. All right. So I'm just lining up the block itself to where things are going to sit on the card. And there's this raised a bit here, which corresponds to these smaller devices here, which I believe are VRMs. So that is what actually needs the cooling there. All right, so I'm going to set this cooler aside. There's a lot of things that the stock cooler cools that that this aftermarket block doesn't. But because there's water running under that section, I'm not super worried about it. And I mean, they designed it, so that's just the way that's going to work. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and remove this thermal pad that I put in here, because that's not where it's supposed to be installed. Yeah, it's just that strip of SMDs on the end. All right, so I'm going to cut this in half. Oh, it actually looks like I don't have to cut it in half. Just lay it in there. Nice and easy. And I will have to cut a little off the ends so as to not cover up the screw holes. Okay. That end is fine. And that will apply pressure in the area where that needs to be, just like in this section. Okay, I think that I found all of the places that this needs to go. And I just need to apply my thermal compound here, which I put in the box over here. Thought, where is that? That'll come in a minute. This was here-ish. And covers those. That's going to be right on the edge before I put the thermal compound back on. Yeah, those components just plain don't get cooling, whereas they're cooled with the subframe assembly on that. You know what? They designed it the way that they designed it, and I'm going to use it as they intended. Should be fine. I would probably do that differently, and I'm guessing that higher end liquid coolers probably do cover that section. And somehow I've managed to misplace my thermal compound. The theme of the evening. Where the heck? Oh, there they go. Arctic silver. So, this is Arctic Silver 5. I've used this stuff in a variety of setups for quite some time, and that's just plain not going to focus. I'll leave a link in the description later as well. Come on, pop off. There we go. Okay. Now, this stuff does like to squirt out when you start it off. I'm just going to use a paper towel, gently depress. Okay. Now, I'm going to use the X method. Now, I'm just looking for a nice, even coat. And I will smooth this out with the smoother that it came with. Do a little star here. Rather have too much than not enough. The concentration in the center. Now, this guy that I was following in the video here used his finger to smooth it out, which I could do, and I'm not beyond. But Arctic Silver folks included a little spatula guy here. So I'm just going to use this to smooth out my paste. Now I'm looking for a thin coat with absolutely complete coverage of the die. Just taking my time with this. Make sure that everything is covered. If it's a little thick, then it'll just squeeze out the sides, and that's totally okay. Too much is just enough. But there shouldn't be any gaps whatsoever. Take care of the edges in a couple of seconds here. All right. That looks like complete coverage to me. Like I said, any excess we'll go ahead and squeeze out. Usually I would use significantly less than that on a CPU, and I will show you guys that a little later when I do the CPU. But I think that should do it for the GPU. I am going to try to clean this up a little bit on the edges, just because I don't want stuff everywhere. I think that's it. All right, so now's the moment of truth as far as getting this actually applied and on there and set. So I'm going to use the block box here. I'm going to use the screws that it comes with because I don't believe that it has to pass through the cooler. So the reason I'm using the box is because the slot cover is going to be much larger than the actual block. So let's go ahead and grab the PCB by the slot cover, put on the water block, set the water block down in the orientation that it's going to go on, like so, and lay it right down on top, making certain to line up the holes here so that everything is aligned. Oh, not. There we go. Now I'm just looking through, making sure that the screw holes all line up before very gently settling the card down, just like so. Okay. Next, we go ahead and put the retention clip back on. The retention clip is not square. I'm just lining up those holes and these holes. Now, again, this is pressure sensitive, so I'm going to go ahead and star pattern and mount these very slowly, at least once I locate my screwdriver again. Back that off. Okay, so there are all these screws. And all these nylon washers. And no English instructions for this set officially. I'm going to double check with that video.
Okay, I get it. So the instructions that Bykski has here are for using their backplate. Because I am the OEM backplate, I'm going to just reuse the mechanism that this came with for the retention here. And that's totally fine. That's what the guy in the video that I have been following for this block recommends and had done himself. And his card hasn't exploded yet, so okay. So lining up the screw hole. We're just starting here. And then the opposite, I'm going to push down. That's a lot of retention. Doesn't seem to want to mount in that hole. Just trying to be as gentle as possible about this. But that's a lot of mounting pressure. Okay. Under a lot of spring tension. Whoa. Okay, that's not good. Okay. That is just a lot of pressure, and I don't want to mess up my card. I'm going to take it off and realign the holes. If I can't figure out why this isn't working properly. That's also a ton of surface mount devices there that I really don't want to mess up. Once again, in there, but it's still kind of loose. Then the opposite side here. Okay. Then here. Okay. Here. Okay. Now let's go back around. Tighten this down. 1, 2. 3, 4. Again, not too tight. And I didn't knock any surface mount devices off that I see. A very dangerous design. I think I just installed the water block. Just checking underneath to see how things are lining up. If they're lining up, they appear to be lining up okay. Yeah, things are pretty good. Now I'll go ahead and reinstall the original water block. Or the original backplate, that is. Don't like reusing these thermal strips, as they have some heat fatigue in there. They have this nasty liquid stuff. But unfortunately, that can't be helped in this case. Now, from what I understand, not all of these will line up. So I'm going to go easy with the screws here. Now, this screw didn't go in at all. Looking at the back side, yeah, it's because there's no plate under there. One probably won't go through. I'm going to try them all anyway, just to make sure that things are working properly. I'll just get as many of these screws back in as I can. Yeah, that's not working. The more screws I get in, the more points of contact and the more that these thermal pads get to do their job for cooling the memory on the back side of this card. Time is it? Almost 1 o'clock. I had higher hopes for the progress of this water cooling build. I was hoping to get more than the GPU set. Come on, screw. There we go. That screws seems a little tricky for some reason. Looking at chat for a second. There we go. Now, I'm not going too tight with these screws, just finger tight. There's no reason why I would believe that they would work themselves out, even with thermal shifting and all that stuff. Don't want to over tighten any of this stuff. Oops, that's not it. So it looks like there's only 2 screws that don't fit in the back plate anymore. And that's these 2 on the outside, just because there's nothing to retain them on the bottom. The video specifically stated that you needed to remove the bottom plate here and not keep it around. So that would go like this-ish, I think. Yeah, like this. So that accounts for these 2 screws here. And these 2 screws have plate here. So that should be okay. So I think that should be the entirety of this process. Nice and clean, totally reversible. There's the block on the card. And this is just the RGB cable, which comes with this handy little plug here. So this is just a pigtail to adapt it. This is 5-volt standard Aurora Sync RGB. And that just mounts the bottom of the card, which is going to come outside here. Shouldn't pose any problems for actually plugging it in. And yeah, things are actually looking really good. I believe that I now have my card. So this is the inlet. Water comes in, goes around. This is where the GPU actually is. There's some microfins here. Comes out, cools all this stuff, and back up and around into the outlet. I'm going to be coming in from the bottom. This is actually the bottom side of the card because I'm not vertically mounting this GPU. I'm going to be horizontally mounting this GPU like you normally would in a computer. So it'll be like this. Unfortunately, you won't get to see most of the RGB strip, but it'll still look pretty neat. And it looks like I retained some of the RGB from the card, which is kind of cool. Although I don't like the RGB software that came with this card. It uses Dragon, which is MSI's whole deal. But that's okay. So double the RGB with the LEDs on the bottom here, which, I may or may not end up using. I'm not certain. I might just not utilize the RGB on this card as far as on the block, and do utilize the RGB on the card. So everything looks good. I am going to. I thought I had 2 plugs. Oh, there's the other one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and insert the plugs in the orientation where I need them. I'm more than likely going to come into the card from the bottom and then go up to the CPU. So from the bottom, I'm going to use the inlet but not the outlet. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the outlet on the bottom. These are just the plugs that came with this block. Not over tightening, just screwing that in until it stops so it compresses the O-ring there. And then flipping it over, this is what we'll see on the other side here. Really not much different other than not having that big honking heatsink there. And then we'll go ahead and block the in on the top side. Okay, so we're going to come out from the pump reservoir. It'll come across the machine, go into the inlet here, go through the card, out the outlet and then up to our CPU, which will be the next thing that we'll go ahead and put a block on. Do I want to call it quits for tonight? No. I want to try to power through as much of this as I can without any major problems happening. So I'm going to set this aside for now. I'm going to put the cooler from this in the water block box along with its constituent components, like the stuff that I'd removed. So the extra pads I'm going to go ahead and put back in a bag. It does all the extra bags. Good. And then the screws, which I have 4 left over, 2 from the, well, all 4 from the mid-plane, really. Find a little baggie here. Put those in here. And I so want to try this out and make sure that it works, but it doesn't actually have any cooling until I get a pump and reservoir hooked up and liquid in the loop. And this is kind of an all or nothing cooling solution. So typically where I would want to test out this card to make sure that it works properly, I won't get to do that until I'm completely finished with the loop setup and plumbing, which is really annoying to me. But that's the way that the liquid cooling has to work. Okay, so there isn't enough room in this box. However, I believe that the box for the card is nearby. So I'm going to grab that. Yes. It's also getting rather chilly in here because my computer is not mining. Okay. So I'm just going to put the cooling solution back in the video card box. So when I go ahead and resell this, I will include both the liquid cooler probably as well as the air cooler and give the buyer the option which one they want to go with. All right, so you are going to go in here because you're shaped like that anyway. That's good. Screws from the mid plane go in here, along with extra thermal pads and extra screws, I guess. Where's that other bag of screws? There we go. So we'll keep that all together. I'm just going to put this right back in the video card box. All right, so that's safe. The block box. Close up. Set that aside, along with the video card. Next, typically I install CPU coolers outside of the case. But in this case, I don't want to have to reinstall my motherboard, and there's really no reason to. So I'm just over here unplugging all of the connectors on my PC, and I'll put it back on the desk, where I'll go ahead and install the CPU block, and then perhaps begin on the rest of the build. Just unplugging all the things takes a moment. So many things plugged in. Okay, I think that's it. So now I get to move this really heavy computer again. All right. Bottom, lift with the knees. And get on the way. Lifted with my back there for a second. It's not good. Ow, 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 ow. And the other camera went out. I will refresh that momentarily. Okay. So there my computer is up on the bench again. I can clearly see the cat hair on the front. Thankfully, these are filtered intakes, and I will be able to do something about that. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I can't get much wider than that, but I do have some additional room. I can push the computer back just a bit. Gently. All right. That's one here, so I can put this panel aside again. Don't want to break that. Okay. So, this is a UV strip, and the adhesive continually fails under heat, but I'm going to simply remove it right now because I'm going to have to install a radiator anyway. Why is this not? There we go. Okay. That I'm just going to set aside here. Figure out how to best attach that a little later. The cable connector is actually on the other side, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. Okay. So next, I'm going to grab my big screwdriver so I can get down in there, and then we'll go ahead and remove the cooler. I'm also going to grab a light. This is a light on a tripod. Extend that here. Put that around. Bring that up just a bit. Gives us a little bit more light in here. That works good. All right. That out of the way for the moment. And if you watched the build video for this, you'll know that the first thing to do would be to remove these fans. And these big old Noctua fans, while excellent at keeping CPU cool, are actually pretty loud, especially when overclocked. All right, and we'll unplug those from the motherboard. There's one. These are 140 millimeter fans too, quite large. Don't like to uninstall fans by pulling on cables, but that's fine in this case. Okay. Now, this uses the SecuFirm 2 system by Noctua, which means that this whole thing is held on by 2 screws. Let me turn this just a bit. I don't think that you'll be able to see down in there. No. Between here, there's 2 screws in the top and bottom that hold on this whole system. They're big-headed, which means that they're easy to torque appropriately. They're kind of spring-loaded so that there's no mistaking how much torque to apply. But just like the GPU, I'm going to gently unscrew a little bit from each one. I don't want to damage my CPU by applying uneven pressure. The whole uneven pressure thing is totally bad news for silicon dies. So I'm just unscrewing the top and the bottom a little bit at a time. When I reach toward the end of these screws, heatsink, because it's quite large and I don't want it to damage any other components, if it falls, which it will no longer have any hold down mechanism, so it will probably fall if I were to let it go. Okay. I think that one is fully done. This bottom one. This will be the first time in a very long time that I have not used this particular heatsink on my primary workstation. This Noctua NHD15 has been part of my gear since I moved to Rese some 3 years ago, I think. I got a 1700X when that was new. All right. Okay. So looking in there, that's a pretty bad mount, which explains the minor thermal issues that I was having. Zoom in. Zoom in more. Okay. That's about as zoomed as I can get. So there's maybe it's not as bad of a mount as I thought. Still not great compound. I used generic heatsink grease the last time when I initially built this, because that's what I had. I had not yet received the Arctic Silver. But now that I have some decent stuff, I'm going to go ahead and clean this off. Hopefully I have enough isopropyl left. I hear a little bit of a corner. I do have some isopropyl-based sanitizing cloths that are like pre-moistened towelettes that I can resort to, but that should be just enough. All right, so I think there's still maybe a couple of drops left in that bottle. But for now, I think I have everything that I need. Most of the compound came off on the heatsink side of things, so I'm not super worried about lots and lots of thermal compound like there was in the GPU. So right now I'm just wiping down this CPU die. Been in and out of my machine now. Actually, the motherboard just got replaced when I built up this new machine with this new Gigabyte X570 Aorus Master, or not Master, I apologize. The X570 Aorus Extreme with an X for extreme because, you know, gamer, despite this being a high enough end board that really only workstation people are going to end up using it. This is a Ryzen 7 3700 CPU in this machine that I've had for about a year and a half. I have been trying very, very hard to replace this with a Ryzen 9 5950X, the highest end of the AM4 family. I've tried to pre-order with B&H Photo Video the day before they came out, and I have still gotten nothing but emails apologizing that they have not gotten me my CPU yet. Super annoying. And I also placed an order with Amazon on the 3rd for two 5950Xs, and I have equally gotten nothing but static from them. They are still not shipped. I have not been charged. I'm kind of annoyed at that whole situation. But right now, I'm unscrewing the Secufirm system from the stock AMD backplate. This is a really nice system that Noctua came out with, and really everyone should just straight up license it from them, or I want to say they should clone it, but they really deserve credit for this. They did a really good job at their retention system. Come on. Isn't wanting to come out all the way for some reason. Alright. So I'm going to just take the spacer and the screw out for now. Put that down. There we go. Grab the bottom one here. That's a little easier. Usually I would use the electric one, but I'm having difficulties locating its bits right now. I was using it as an electric rotary device for testing my tube finishing bit. Oh. Well, that explains why I was having difficulties with that other screw. So So the backplate that I have on this particular motherboard is not adhered to it, which means that it just kind of fell behind the motherboard tray, which is inconvenient but not terrible. We will be using that backplate in order to continue the install here. I thought that it was firmly attached. Guess I was mistaken. So I got to turn this computer around and get that plate in position. Back out. Let's see. Where do I want to put this stuff so it doesn't get lost? How about this handy Ziploc bag? So this is spacer and screw, spacer and screw. Secufirm spacer and screw. Secufirm spacer and screw. Okay, so that's all the components that are special to the Noctua HD15, along with these fans, which I will put together and put in a box to store away, because this is a really good cooler, one of the best air coolers that you can possibly get, but not nearly as good as custom liquid cooling. All right, so let's grab the CPU retention plate. Oops. Just touched the heatsink compound on the spreader. Trying to wipe some of that off of my finger. There we go. Okay. There we go. There's the back plate. I'm going to leave the back cover off for now as well. Put that aside. I'm going to need to rejigger some things back here as well. Oh, I see. So this has adhesive. Oh, is it supposed to? I think it's supposed to have adhesive, but it's not currently applied. Well, anyway, that's not a terrible deal. Just going to go ahead and set it back in place. And then I will apply the cooler, which is very easy to do. Just grabbing the cooler here. Now, should I use the compound that's pre-applied or use the Arctic Silver? I'm inclined to use the fully intact compound that's there. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip this back around and gently screw down the cooler. I'm going to hold this in position with my hand as I swing this back around. Okay, still got the back plate in my other hand. Now let go. Okay, so this is the CPU block. This is the Corsair XE7, that's what it is. All right, so Corsair logo at the bottom. zoom in just a bit. So Corsair logo at the bottom. I went ahead and put in some of the tube holders, fittings. Yes, that's what they are. So that's I had some idea of what they would look like there. They don't come with fittings pre-installed. Okay, so that doesn't fit like that. That does fit like that. So this needs to be turned 90 degrees, which is totally a thing with this particular cooler. So it basically is in a little thingy where you can just turn it, lift, turn, and pull out. All right, so I'm going to align the screws with the back plate, making sure that things line up properly. And this is the Intel version of the tension mechanism. I'm not certain how that happened, but very clearly this is the appropriate back plate for this. These screws do line up, so I just went ahead and pulled this out of the box. It comes with both Intel and AMD mounts, like most heat sinks do. So I'm going to put the wires through here. Oh, no, that's not it. Don't put the wires through. I'm going to go ahead and attach this just like so. And that should do. So I'm going to hold the back plate so it doesn't fall back. Align this top right screw and gently screw it in slightly. Okay. And then this one, just a little bit so it pulls the thread. And then this. And this. Okay, and then in a star pattern. So one, couple of screws here, couple of screws here, screws here, and back around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just trying to get nice, even pressure. I'm just going until finger tight. That's it. Corsair logo at the bottom, RGB wire here. Don't need this part. There we go. That's just an RGB adapter. Undo the twist tie here. Now, I know for a fact that the RGB will not work here now today. And the reason for that is because I am out of space on my RGB hub. I have 6 fans, 6 RGB fans, and 6 points on the hub. No fear, however, I do have 2 more hubs coming in. One of them may be used for a different computer build. Not positive on that, but I do have a Lighting Node Pro. All right, so from here, I need to route it somehow up, around, and back. I think I will do that in this direction. I actually wish that this was quite a bit longer. Although I do get to choose where to put that other RGB hub that's necessary for this build. So I might be able to locate it in a more convenient place than my current RGB hub, which I will show you in a few moments. RGB cable management is kind of a pain in the neck. I also wish that this wire didn't have a big white stripe down it. Alright, so the CPU cooler is installed. Next, you know what? Screw it. I'll just install the GPU. What did I do with that? Oh, of course, across the room. We are all good things like to be. Okay. This is our newly water-blocked GPU. And that's going to go so that the RGB strip Alright, that looks like that's where that belongs. Might as well go ahead and route power. Well, that's not good. Heavy enough to pull right out of the socket. Guess I need to put some screws in there before I move on. Also, the lock doesn't fully engage because of the depth of the back plate and how this portion of the motherboard is raised up right along that section. It certainly makes contact because it was installed here perfectly fine previously. It just needs to be appropriately screwed in. And just need to get those thumb screws to screw that in. Cat just happened to knock over my wood screws. Had to correct that. Okay. Where'd my long screwdriver go? Oh, there it is. One of the few things that I don't like about this case is that because the card slots are recessed on the inside of the case here, it's really difficult to get thumb screws in and out of there specifically, and that's what this case comes with for card retention is thumb screws. They have Phillips on them, but which I end up having to use each time. Whereas my old case, I could just very easily use thumb screws. Not a huge ask for what this case does for me, which is a whole lot. I love this case, but unfortunately, that's one of the minor things that keep getting in my way a little bit. This is the Fractal Design Meshify 2. So really like this case. It's great. But having thumb screws in the inside where the cards are, especially for longer cards like this particular GPU, it's a little on the annoying side. Oh, I just realized that I didn't put the midplane board back in the, not board, the midplane heatsink back in the video card box. Do that in a few moments. Once we're beyond the GPU, still difficult to get thumb and forefinger in order to manipulate thumb screws like that. You gotta reach way in here in order to try to screw things in and out. And I still often have to end up using the screwdriver. There we go. Still a little bit of GPU sag. Wish that weren't the way, but that's the way it is. Is it just these cables holding it down? No, it's the card. I can live with it. Or I'll end up getting an anti-sag bracket. This is the GPU. RGB. That I'm going to route just up here. Maybe. Down here, maybe? Yeah, down here. Really rough getting connectors in and out of this area. I think that I will simply detach the connector cable that it came with and then connect it back up on the other side. Yeah, that'll work much better. All right, so first off, let's go under this. Pass that through here. Grabbing that connector from the other side so I can pull it on through. Okay. We'll get routed with the rest of the cables. Good. Okay. So I'm just checking alignments now that the card is installed, planning for my loop. This comes out kind of far. It won't prevent the glass from going on, but it comes out kind of far. If I route at the bottom, I have cable conflict. I could route it from the top, and then I'd have to go in here though. That would be a lot of bending. There's this. No, let's just worry about that later. 1:40 in the morning. Okay, let's get these fans taken care of. Yeah. Now, mesh by 2, this whole top piece gets moved. Ball joint. Okay. Got my filter. Toss that over here in the trash. See a little shake in the trash there. Okay. No worse for wear. I'm going to go ahead and remove these fans. I'm going to have to attach them to the radiator. Or rather, attach the radiator through them, probably. At least the ones on the top. I'm going to leave these sag here for now. And you'll note that I only had 2 screws each in these. That's because I knew that I was going to be rebuilding this soon anyway. Let's do this one radiator at a time. I gotta think about what orientation this radiator needs to go, though. I know this doesn't make for great content, but I'm just trying to think about how I want my loop planned. I could have the tubes here, or I could have the tubes here. Okay, I'm coming out of here into there, and out of there. Okay, so out, up, and either left or right. Probably left, and then in. And where would that rad hang? Right about there. Okay. Just thinking things through a little bit. Or it could go that way. And up. But if the out is here, and I already have one tube going from here to here, I don't want to cross over. So I would have to go, oh, there's going to be a radiator here as well. That's going to come down to here. So it would have to come up and over and then up again and then over again. Okay. It's simpler to have it on this side. I'm going to go get one of my radiators and mounting gear. Radiator box, radiator box, mounts. Okay. Ow. Okay, so here's the radiator. What does it go? Yeah. Okay, so this is going to go in like this. This case is actually pretty cool in that this whole top portion can be removed. Ease installation of radiators. Now, you can fit a 420 radiator on top, but I'm using 320s on both the top and front. So it should give me some wiggle room here. Okay. So I know that I want the fans to be on top or between the radiator and this top portion. Right? Right. So I put this back in temporarily, right where it lines up at, and I put this in. Okay. That tells me a lot right there. Oops, this way. Still tells me a lot right there. Tells me that I can fit the fans and the radiator without interference. Okay. All right, so in order to do this without unplugging these fans, which would be a big pain in the butt, put that on top, and then get our box of screws. So I'm going to need the longest ones because I'm going through the case, through the fans. Yes. So, it's actually easier to show you this in the one shot here. All right, so be gentle with the radiator. Put that aside for just a second. Take the top part off of my case here. All right. So, screw goes through the hole. Yeah, I'm going to have to take these fans out of here. I can't get around that. I need them separate, or at least not plugged into anything. Okay, so set the screws aside, set the screwdriver aside, fan screws aside. Spin this guy around. And I'm probably going to have to do the same for the front, so I'm just going to go ahead and unplug all the fans. All right. Hoping to avoid that, but it appears to be unavoidable. So, RGB hub. Ugh. Reroute all of this all over again. Looks that way. Six, 5, 4. Six, 5, 4. Okay, so that should be all of the fans and their associated RGB. I'm also going to go ahead and unplug that black light strip, that UV strip from before. I'm just going to have to reroute all of these cables all over again, and it'll be a giant pain. But that's what I'm doing here right now. These will eventually all come through and be back into pretty much exactly the same positions. I just need to be able to attach the fans to the radiator outside the case. Now the fans are totally on the front side of the case, and they are completely free. Okay, slide that back. All right, so back here. Where was I? All right, so top of the case inserts in the machine like this. So, screw goes through here, goes through the fan, making sure the fan is oriented correctly, because we want to be blowing up through the radiator, or the radiator to be drawing air out of the case. So that'll go like that. Okay, it goes through one fan hole or fan screw hole, and then there we go. Second fan screw hole. And I think I'm just going to drop all of the fan screws into here all at the same time, or at least for the first fan. We'll do it a fan at a time. Maybe it is easier to do it over here. Alright, so there's one fan screw. Fan screw through the first part of the fan. There we go, fan screw through the second part of the fan. I'm going to put all of the screws in this particular setup. Okay. Last screw. Okay. Alright, so there's one complete fan installed with all 4 screws. It's not attached to anything yet, because the thing it attaches to is this here radiator. I'm going to slide this underneath. Line up the screws. Set them gently on top. And then with minimum pressure, go ahead and lock them down so that the screw holes line up and mount. And again, that same star pattern, not locking these down too hard, just so that they're finger tight. Also, they can slide across these little slider nodules, and that's by design. I still want this thing to be able to slide back and forth a little bit so I can position it correctly. I also don't want to strip the paint off of the nice enameled surface, so I'm going to work these screws back just a little bit so that they're slidable. Nice. Okay, so that's one complete set. Now for the rest, I'm going to need to slide the fans underneath between the radiator and this fan. Right, so make sure that they're in the right direction. Okay. I should just be able to slide it right in between here, nice and gentle. There are some rubberized feet things for vibration isolation. So just being wary of those. Okay. And I'm just sliding it on down here. Let it meets up with its mate. Now, theoretically, once these are butted up against one another, they should be in the right orientation for screwing down again. Grab some more screws. And now, just got to make sure they align with the holes in the rad. Which I believe they do. Yes, they do. So again, I'm trying to get them mounted, but I don't want them tight enough to make it so that it doesn't slide. So kind of loose. Still slides. The screw isn't down enough. Good. Still slides. Awesome. Now for the last fan, again, I'm going to slide it right underneath. Match it up, butt it right up against its mate. Get those screw holes lined up to the top case. And get those last 4 screws mounted. Whoop. I think once I'm done with the radiator installation this evening, I'm going to call it a day. It's already 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's no way I'm going to plan and plumb the rest of my loop. So I've got to call it quits. Let's just get the rest of these 2 radiators installed. So there will be a part 2 to this stream, probably at some time tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and take a lunch and spin up a stream. Maybe while I'm eating, I don't know. I just kind of want this done before tomorrow night. Okay, all of my fans are mounted to the radiator in the way that they're supposed to be. They are still kind of loose, so I do need to lock them down. But I will lock them down once I've got most of my loop plumbed. The reason for that is I want to be able to make sure that this can wiggle back and forth to account for tube length on the radiator. So that will be kind of an ace in the hole when it comes to cable length. I'm going to go ahead and run these Now, one pro tip that I learned right off the bat when it comes to dealing with these RGB cables that go to a Corsair hub or any fan and RGB hub at the same time, in order to map the fans to try to figure out which fan goes to what, you can twist them together. Because my hub unit is one and the same, as far as RGB and fan, it's best to simply identify what fan is what, and then you can worry about plugging them in. And I use the same numbers on both the RGB hub as I do on the fan controller for easier identification. So I'm just twisting these cables together very gently so that I can identify that they are in fact together on the other side. And as far as IQ is concerned, which is the software that I use to control the RGB and the fans, they do need to be in order. So the front set is 1, 2, 3, and then this set is going to be 4, 5, 6 when I plug them in. And those are the numbers that are actually on the Commander Pro hub itself. And those are the numbers that I unplugged them from before. I had the RGB and fans set up correctly, and they looked fantastic. So big fan of that. No pun intended. Late. So yeah, that should work itself out. So route this through here, and RGB. Now, if I were smart, I would use my label maker and create labels 1 through 6 for these fans. However, label maker is generally powered off of the workstation that I'm working on, so that's not a great plan right this second. And also, I don't want to stop with this particular issue. This is just getting in the way. So if I need to mess around with the assignments for where the fans plug in later on, then that'll just be what I have to do. For now, I'm actually going to leave both the fans and the RGB unplugged, at least for today. I don't want to mess with that right this second. Okay, so those are passed through the grommet. Now I can lift this up and gently pull on those RGB cables or the fan RGB cables. Okay, keeping those together, putting these together, and there we go. That's that. There's a groove here. Slides nicely. Oh, that is so perfect. Okay, you can't see from here. I'm going to go and lower the camera so I can get that into the computer. All right, so now that I've lowered the camera, zoom in some. All right, lower a little more. Hoping you can see the top of the RAM. So let me lean this back just a bit. This isn't locked down either. So the top of the RAM is right at the bottom of the radiator. I couldn't have asked for a better fitment. That is fantastic. The power and reset buttons on the motherboard still accessible. Their text is covered, but I'm not too worried about that, honestly. This is an excellent fitment here. They're still a few millimeters away from this VRM heatsink, and also this VRM heatsink has a heat pipe that goes to the rest of the board, so I'm not too worried about this getting hot. There's still going to be more than enough airflow. It looks like this belongs here. Like, this is absolutely perfect. Yeah, I couldn't have asked for better. So my loop is going to come from here. This is where my reservoir and pump are going to sit, is right in here. Once the rad gets installed, which is going to be about that thick. So it's going to come out of the bottom of the res into here, go through the card, out here, out here, and then up, in, over, in. Now, this is where one of those 90-degree or 45-degree fittings would be so nice. I don't have any of those. I didn't order them. I can order more if I need to. But as it is, I'm going to have to go up, over, and in. Now, I think I can make that happen. So, yeah. And this should be just enough for that rad without interfering with this rear fan. This is really coming together spatially for me. Okay. For now, though, to aid the install of this front radiator, I'm going to slide this back. I'm also going to put the screws in this upper portion just to make sure that that whole radiator mount doesn't topple out of here and kill my graphics card or motherboard or any of those bad things. There's one screw, the other screw, and like I said, I'm going to go ahead and install that front radiator and call it a night. Now that I'm thinking about it a little more, I probably should have actually no, that's fine. Now, do I want that front radiator to have its tubes down or up? I'm thinking probably up. So it'll come out of the graphics card into this part of the CPU, out of this part of the CPU, over, up, into the rad, and then out of this rad, down, I'm going to have to cut across this whole thing. Okay, the other way to do it is if these pipes were here, right? So it would come out of here into here. So up, over, in, or up, over, in. Probably over, up, in. Nice and low on that one. And then this would go out. So it would still be up, over, in. I still think that having the front tubes up and the top tubes rear is the best way to go in my current scenario. So I'm going to do that and then probably bitch about it when it doesn't work quite right. Figure out why it doesn't work quite right, and then fix it. All right, so let's pull this off. Do I need to pull it all the way off? No, I don't. You know, I could have just left this top part attached, left all the RGB installed. It's okay though. I'm learning. All right, so again, I only have these locked down in 2 screws per fan because I knew I was going to rebuild this soon anyway. Liquid. Also, I think I ran out of fan screws with this. No, I'm just going to pull this off. It's designed to. Whoa. We'll find that later. Not going to need it right now anyway. So we're just going to let these drop gently. There's another one of those lighting strips behind this radiator, or behind these fans here. And I'm probably just going to pull that out and reattach it once I get the rad installed. I specifically don't want to put the adhesive near the radiator because I think that it'll soften the adhesive and it won't stick. Oops. There's another screw. Okay. Oh, I guess I did put one last screw in here. I must have had one that was extra. Okay. I'll go grab the other rad. I really like the way that they designed these screw holes where you can slide them in and out, or slide the radiator around. Really good touch for good cooling builds. All right, so here's the radiator. Corsair really does make this stuff easy. I'm not endorsed by them. Corsair, if you're out there and you want me to take a look at some more of your stuff, especially for other machines that may or may not need to be liquid cooled, please do reach out to me. You can find all of my contact information at Cpgeek.org, and I would very much like to speak to you. But for what it's worth, I'm really liking your liquid cooling system. Okay. So. I think I may have mixed up the fans, which is not great, but not the end of the world either. Okay, so this is set back here. Now, as far as those lighting strips, I'm gonna have to. Oh, one can go up here, and I'll figure out the other one in a minute once I get the radiator set. Okay, so in this case, it's going to start again with the longer screws. Come on. There we go, longest screws. Okay. So then, still want the fans on the outside, and these fans are going to go into the computer because you always want equal in and out whenever possible in order to maximize airflow. I'm going to put this in here because it's harder to reach to the back. Another one of these really long screws. Now this would probably honestly fit a 420 mount as well, but not at the same time as the top one. However, that's not what we're doing here today. And also, it would make it so that we don't have room to slide things around. And I just dropped my bag of screws. Ah, that can't mount there. Go one higher, which might be too high. Definitely too high. Okay. Yep, gotta take these screws out. Okay. Okay. Now, on the inside of this case, there's a panel here, which is removable. Our hard drives underneath, that's where those are. But it should, theoretically, allow me enough room to get in and work around. So I'm going to put the tubes to the top, which may be a mistake, but I have to rearrange this later on, and so be it. Just trying to get all the cables out from underneath the section where I'm trying to put the radiator. I don't want to break anything. Should be clear enough. Okay. Now this is where things are going to start to get tight. Right there's banging the tanks against this rear fan. You'll probably end up sliding it forward a little bit, but not that much. This is going to be fun. It's a very tight fit getting all this in here. I don't know if I'll be able to fasten these bottom, but I will be able to. Okay. So fasten them down nice and loose-like, and I'll be able to slide the whole thing down. Okay. I can already tell that this isn't going to work. So, all right, so let's see where the radiator's sitting there. And the tubes need to connect here, which is just, there's not enough room. It's already in its forwardmost position, which means that even moving this all the way down, there's not enough room to get tubes into that radiator. If I put it downward, then I can get rid of the hard drive bay altogether. Don't really want to do that, but I also don't really need those hard drives anymore now that I've moved my data over. The other way to go with this configuration is I can take the top fans and this whole radiator fan assembly out, put the radiator on the top, fans on the bottom. That will raise the tanks on the opposite side. So these tanks will be up here, right? And then the fans will only go to here, which will give another extra few millimeters for that radiator. Or I can put this radiator on the inside of this case, and the fans, sorry, the radiator on the front of the case, the fans on the other side, sucking in air. But you won't be able to see the lighting effects from the fan as well. But it'll put these two tanks all the way up here, a little bit of wiggle room, or both. If I put the top fans below the radiator, I probably won't be able to see the LED lighting effects from the outside of the case at all on those fans, because there's another couple of layers. Well, I don't want to fully install this front radiator with all of these decisions that need to be made about if I'm going to reverse the way that the radiators and the fans are mounted. And I've run out of time. So I guess this is where I leave it. I've got radiators partially installed, but they're interfering with one another. The tanks here are fine. I don't mind that it's close to this fan. It still spins freely and does its job properly. These tanks are just fine in operation, but these tanks are too high, period. And this is mounted as low as it's going to go right now. So this radiator can't stay here in its current state. If this radiator were up here, then these tank positions would be just fine. There would be plenty of room to do that. Or if this radiator were against here, then there would be a little bit of room that I could run a tube down and out. But as it is, this case doesn't support two radiators that are this size, both on the inside, without conflict. Or, of course, I can flip this upside down so that the tank is on the bottom and run that up to the reservoir. Those are the choices so far. I'm kind of done right now today. I'm at the point where I don't believe that I can do this effectively. I have options. I have all the tools that I need, but I need to approach this fresh at a different time, which will most likely be tomorrow afternoon. And so it's time to finish the stream. Well, thank you all for tuning in. It's been of course, as soon as I switch to that camera completely, it goes out of focus, because that's the way that things are going right now. There I am. Thank you for checking out this stream. If you watched any part of it, I really appreciate it. If you are interested in helping fund this channel or additional streams like this, or even shorter content, I do lots of little unboxing videos and that sort of stuff. Please do feel free. There's a tip link down below if you want to donate any amount. Wow, that's really just not working. There we go. So there's a tip link down below. It's one of the last items. If you're interested in contributing any amount to the stream, it's just a PayPal tip link. If you want to talk to me or the rest of the community that we have here, please head on over to Cpgeek.org. And from there, you can find the Discord, the Facebook group, and let's see what else. My Twitter account, if you'd like to reach out to me directly via Twitter. I'm always interested in hearing your thoughts. If you have any ideas or questions or anything about anything we talked about today with this build, please do put them in the comments down below. I read all of the comments. I'm always interested to hear what you all have to say. So please go ahead and put that down below. If you like any part of this, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps me get out there on the YouTube platform so people can find this stuff, or any of the other videos that I do. If you like any of this whatsoever, feel free to go to my channel. Just go ahead and click on that Cpgeek.org link there right below the video. That'll take you to the rest of my videos, and I'm sure that there might be something else that I've done that you might enjoy, be it unboxing, some video game stuff, some technology-related stuff. Any of that stuff is right there at Cpgeek.org on the YouTube channel or on the website. So head on over. Happy to help. If you are a brand or a technology supplier or any of that kind of stuff, and you're interested in having me take a look at any of the products that you have, or are interested in any kind of possible partnerships, feel free to reach out. Again, I am at Cpgeek on Twitter, and you can find all kinds of ways to contact me by going to Cpgeek.org. I'm happy to respond to any emails that you might throw my way about that stuff. Anyhow, again, thank you very much for tuning in. I do have affiliate links to all of the water cooling parts that I use down below, and yeah, thanks for following along. The second part to this will be more than likely tomorrow afternoon. I will go ahead and read out the link to the second part to the stream, as well as post to the Facebook group and whatnot right before I go live. So please do look for that if you want to, continue with this this build. And